Oh, there we go. Okay.
Till last week.
You feel like Princess Leia.
Oh, you look like Princess Leia.
Yes. Ooh, I love it.
Oh, God. I forgot I was wearing my Lucky Me I See Ghosts. It's perfect.
She loves it. Good.
That's hilarious.
Okay.
That's perfect.
I need one.
We'll get you one.
That's cute.
So
Lucky you.
lucky me. Listen, I'm gonna ask them about your dad.
Yeah, please. Let me know.
Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the MiscELENAeous podcast. I'm your host, Elena, and this week we have a very special guest in studio, Madison McGhee. Woo! The crowd goes wild. She is the host of Ice Cold Case podcast, and we're here to talk about that, but so much more. We have to talk first about your first podcast because that's how we connected. That's how we met. So you reached out to me on Instagram and asked me to be on your podcast, and it was really just like to chat, like talk to reality TV stars, like about their experience pretty much, right?
Yeah, it was just like, reality TV, Big Brother. I was like obsessed with the show, had seen your season in real time when it aired, and was like, I have to talk to Elena Davies. I feel like she just like has a really interesting perspective of reality TV. And I just sent a little DM on Instagram and was like, I'm never going to hear back. And you replied almost like immediately. And you were like, oh yeah, I'll do that. I was like, oh, okay, cool. And I was like kind of fangirling, like freaking out a little bit. Like, oh my God, she replied. This is crazy. And then we got on a Zoom and it was like love at first sight. Like, we had the best time.
And I actually, I have a clip of the podcast.
Oh.
And I'm going to play it because a fun thing happened when I was on her podcast. We had so much fun. And watching this clip back, it just made me laugh because I'm literally you'd recognize me. I'm sitting in my bed. It's almost like you can't recognize me if I'm not. Wearing a Chelsea Lynn shirt. She's smoking a cigarette with a bald eagle on it. And I'm like rubbing my nose, my hair's in it. I'm a mess. I'm just so Elena. But we're just chatting, having the best time. I remember like we connected so quick, we laughed. But later that year, a couple months later, I got my car, my G-Wagon, the G-Spot. And Madison sent me a DM on Instagram that read, "You manifested your G-Wagon on my podcast, and I'm honored." I mean, obviously in the back of my mind, I am planning on, getting enough money to get myself a pink G-Wagon. Like, obviously. Please. There's not a world in which I won't own a pink G-Wagon. Okay. Guys, that's on manifesting, okay? So send the DM. Send the DM to the person. Ask the thing. Ask for the thing. Ask to be on the podcast. Ask the universe for the G-Wagon.
Truly. That's like, and it's so weird because sometimes you say things and you're like, yeah, like, I don't know, probably not. But you just say it.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's there. And then it's there and you like can't not think about it.
Y'all got to realize how powerful you are. You're so powerful. Your mind is so powerful. What you say is so powerful. So if you're going to be powerful, why don't we just like use it for the greater good of ourselves and our G-Wagons?
Oh my God, yeah.
And maybe solving our dad's murder.
Maybe.
So after this podcast that I was on, your whole life like flipped upside down. You like moved to LA. We got a new podcast, and that's what we really want to talk about. And I've personally, so she has a new podcast called Ice Cold Case, and it is all about solving your dad's murder. And I have been gatekeeping from myself. Okay? Gatekeeping from myself. Because I've been waiting for Madison to be on my podcast so that I can hear about her podcast. So tell me everything.
Yeah, well, and it's been like such a weird journey. So, and I feel like on manifesting, even when we were talking, I was sort of like, yeah, I want to move to LA. Like, I want to like make TV shows and like do the LA entertainment industry thing. And then like a few months later, I moved and I started this sort of weird journey of like just the craziest things happened to me. And part of that was this like, in the back of my mind, I was like, I really want to like try to look into my dad's murder and like figure out what happened and start maybe a podcast or a documentary or something that gets people really excited about it and maybe it will get solved. And I didn't really know what to do. And actually, my reality TV podcast was sort of a test run for podcasting. Because if I was really bad at it, I wasn't going to do a podcast.
Yeah, because this is big. Like, you know,
hard.
you want to.
Yeah.
And if you're going to do this, like, you want to do it the right way.
Yeah. And I wanted to learn. And, like, you know, there's, like, so many weird things about podcasts, like how you upload and where it goes and how long it takes and, like, all this weird stuff. And I didn't want to, like, try that with this. I wanted to, like, make sure I knew what I was doing. So the fact that the reality TV podcast ended up sort of like catapulting my career in a weird way. It's like very funny because it was just supposed to be like, let me just try like a couple episodes and see what happens. And so I ended up like moving to LA, made a few TV shows, worked on a couple big projects, and then started this podcast, which I am investigating my dad's murder and I'm trying
It's blowing
to solve
up.
it.
I mean, like you're doing like you were just on Good Morning Texas. I'm honored to have you on my pod. Like what? She's like, I want to be on your, like, no, thank you for being here.
Yeah, it was really weird. And I think it's kind of this like, I don't know, underdog story that people really like of, I had pitched the podcast around to people I knew in LA before putting it out and no one wanted it. No one was interested. Like, people were like, that's like, we're so sorry, but like, this isn't something we could like give you money for and we can't help you make this. That's crazy. And like, it was just like very annoying. And so I was like, okay, fuck it. I'm going to do it myself. And so I record it in my spare bedroom of my apartment with my friends. My friend Cody like mixes it for free. Like we just kind of like came together and we're like, let's just figure this out.
Friends.
Yeah, my wonderful, wonderful friends.
That's great. Those are great friends.
Yeah. And like, I mean, they put in a lot of time to like make this happen. And we put it out and we were like, okay, like the end. I don't know what to do now. And then it was just like, we were on the top charts and people were listening. And then we started getting reached out.
I just got chills.
It was really wild. I think the first major outlet that covered it was Daily Mail. So they did the first sort of big, like, this case is really strange. And then it was like People Magazine. And then from there, it was like just a bunch of different places. And then I ended up being in People Magazine print. And like, it was just really like to look back at, I started this in my spare bedroom. No, I asked production companies if they wanted it. They said no. And those same production companies now are coming back going, hey, we're really interested in this as like a documentary or something. Like, have you ever thought about? And I'm like, yeah, remember when I emailed you?
Yeah, remember when you said no?
8 months ago. Yeah.
Have you been saying that?
I mean,
that's a tough like line to walk because you don't want to like miss an opportunity to further like exposure, to further advancement of this, to further your career, like financial gain. Like there's so much opportunity and blessing that could be there, but also it's kind of like fuck you.
Totally.
That's like are we just splitting the beam there with that? That's tough.
It's tough. And in some cases I'm like, yeah, no, thank you. And then there are others where I'm like, well, I really wanted to work with you before and like I would still want to work with you. But there have been, I mean, there was one production company, I'll never forget. And I believe in like universe, stars, whatever. So Saturn return, all of that kind of stuff. So the day before my 27th birthday, which was like you're entering your Saturn return, on July 22nd, because my birthday is July 23rd. And it was on the 22nd, I lost my only development deal I ever had for the podcast with a major production company. And like a lot of like weird shit went down and they basically were like, we just aren't interested in like working with you. And I was like, okay. And I was so upset and I didn't know what to do. And then the next day I turned 27. And I was like, this is the worst birthday ever. Like, I'm so sad. And like, I'll never make this. Like, I don't know what to do. And within like 9 months, the podcast was like coming out. And I haven't heard from anyone at that production company, but I do know that they've listened and that they are aware of like sort of what's happened. And I just think it's very funny that, you know, they really were like, we don't believe in you. I mean, that's essentially what happened. And they were like, we just don't believe in this. We don't believe in you. Like, you're not someone that we're like interested in investing in.
But you'll tune in though.
Yeah, they'll listen.
But you're a fan. It's funny how that works.
So I'm like, I love it. And I'm like, it's great. And that I think I'm nothing without a chip on my shoulder.
Mm-hmm.
I need that. Like, there's some people who just like wake up and are motivated. And like, I'm like, no. I need my high school bully to like watch my Instagram stories and not follow me for me to be like, oh, I got this. Like,
yeah, there has to be something like inspiring the pettiness in me.
Yeah. It's weird and maybe some people can't relate, but I feel like secretly everyone can.
No, they can.
I need that. Like, I put up billboards for my podcast in my hometown just so people like on their way to work would be like, oh, that's Madison's thing. Like on their way to like the McDonald's.
I remember that girl.
Yeah.
And now she's on a billboard.
Now she's on a billboard.
She's doing shit.
Yeah. I put one like strategically like on the way my mom's route to work and like just
That's
like
so
this very
cool.
specific places. Yeah.
I love that. Can we get into a little bit about like the story and like any major developments in the case?
So many since the podcast, actually. So, so I'll just kind of go through like the top line. My dad was shot in his house in Belmont County, Ohio. And that's sort of like man shot and killed is like the very top line. Now,
how old were you?
I was 6. So this was 21, almost 22 years ago, 21 and a half years ago. And it's at the surface level, it's like, okay, this can't be that hard to solve. And then you're like, whoa. My dad lived next door to his sister, which is kind of common for like these types of areas. Like your whole family lives like on one street. So my dad lived next door to his sister, and his sister had a son who was about 20 years old at the time. And he was a drug dealer. And their house got broken into in the morning. And they were looking for a safe, which I'm presuming is like drug money. And they knew like, oh, Omar's dealing drugs. So there's probably like a safe with a bunch of cash somewhere in this house. So they break in and they tie them up. This is all according to my dad's sister and his nephew. They tie them up with phone cords. They pour rubbing alcohol on them. They say they're going to light them on fire, but they need the safe. Like, give us the safe and we'll leave. And it seemed really strange. And Omar's girlfriend was also there. So there's 3 people inside the house tied up. They take Omar outside, take him next door to my dad's house. My dad hears something outside, gets out of bed, is walking to the front door. They kick in the front door, shoot my dad, 1 shot to the head, he's dead. They don't enter, they don't steal anything, and they leave. And that's it.
So they're threatening to kill 3 people for a very long time that they were highly motivated to get something out of the house from, and then just kill this other guy who's not involved.
Right.
But the other 3 people are fine.
Yeah.
That's suspect.
So it's super strange, and there's a lot of like little details in there that sort of like add to the suspicion, but the police just kept saying, oh, it's a home invasion gone wrong. And I'm like, but they didn't invade my dad's house. He wasn't the target of a home invasion. They didn't steal anything. It seemed like they were trying to kill my dad. Like, that seems like what was happening here. And so they don't really look at it through that lens, which I think skews the rest of the investigation, which doesn't really last for very long anyways. And so I'm going through all of these files. I'm interviewing family members. I'm talking to the police. I'm talking to the Belmont County prosecutors. I'm doing all this work. I make it into a podcast, and my entire family on my dad's side, minus like a couple people, are like, oh, we can't believe she's doing this. I start getting death threats. I start getting the craziest messages, and they're all telling me like, you have to stop. You're getting it wrong. This isn't right. And I'm like, I've talked to all of you. If I was wrong, you could have said something. It's also been 20 years. So where were you when this initially happened? If you have more information, Why aren't you giving it up?
Why are you holding back?
So it's been really interesting. And so there was sort of a main suspect that the police had given me that I had looked into, and I could find some sort of motive as to why he would have done it, and he could have been there. And I kind of run with that theory for a while. And then I end part 1. And I'm like, I got to go back to the drawing board. Like, I think I have a theory, and now it's time to really dive into this theory. And now I have 9 more episodes coming. And I've spent the last 6 months really diving into my current theory. And there have been, like, the most insane developments. I've gotten calls from witnesses that were never interviewed by police. I've been approached by people who were suspects at the time. It's really been wild. So I've had a really crazy 6 months, and I'm really excited to share my new findings, because I think that it's also been kind of weird, and that's why I don't know why my family is so mad about this. As I'm putting out information, if I'm wrong, people have the opportunity to call and correct.
Right.
And
that's kind of
helps.
part of from my experience, I've mostly in the past listened to true crime podcasts. And like the Serial podcast was really great.
Yeah.
And it's really amazing to be able to feel like you're part of the whole journey.
Yeah.
You know, like it's not something that is done, filmed, and edited, post-production, and put out with all the information already there. Like these people, like they're literally, you're solving the murder with them.
Yeah.
You know, and so it's like people will get on Reddit and like they're like they literally start. They're like, well, what can I find out? And I'm like, yeah, what can you find out?
Yeah.
Actually.
And then they find some random person who is secluded in Wyoming who used to live there 20 years ago.
Who knows this person that knew this person that heard this story at a party. It's like you're literally opening the floodgates to the world for people to bring you information and literally solve your dad's murder.
Yeah.
I think you're going to. You are.
I think I am too.
You just are.
Yeah. I'm
That's so
getting
cool.
so close. And it's been a little frustrating because I thought I was close, and now I'm a little like,
That's
I
part of
don't
the
know.
journey.
But it is part of the journey, and I think it's cool to be able to share
Keeps
that.
the listeners on the line.
Yeah.
That's what it is. We're just keeping y'all on the hook is all.
Yeah, so it's been like this just really like and emotional as well. I mean, like I didn't know my dad crazy well because I was 6, so it's like imagine, you know.
I was going to say like that, what an interesting dynamic too, because now you're a grown up. Like how old was your dad when he was killed?
45.
Okay, so you're not as grown up as him, obviously, right? But like you're a grown up. You have a completely different, you know, view of the world now, and it's like you're getting to probably know him in maybe ways you like there are things that you're like, I wish I didn't know that.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting. Like,
My dad told me something on the phone on the way here I wish I hadn't heard. My mom also told me something last night I wish I hadn't heard. So it's there. Basically, there's no way to escape it, folks.
Yeah, it is weird. And like you have a close relationship with your mom, but like I always equate it to like imagine like your dad sitting down with you and like talking to you about like his best fraternity party. And you're like, oh, I never wanted to know that. And most people never do find that out about their parents. Like, they just don't. They kind of, like, become adults, and then they have kids, and, like, they're a different person now.
It's one of those things you realize about your parents as you become, like, you're like.
They were once me.
Yeah, you're like, oh, if I'm doing this kind of shit, was my mom doing this kind of shit? And that's how you realize normally how life works. My dad, unfortunately, just does tell me everything without consent. But kind of same. Without consent, I'm like, oh, I know that now.
Yeah.
With all the details.
It's very weird. Yeah. And so to learn about it, like, from other people and whatever, and sort of have, like, I had a vision of my dad for, like, a long time. I mean, most of my life, like, 23 years. And to then be like, oh, shit. Like.
This dynamic is shifting.
Yeah. My dad was, like, you know, sleeping with sex workers and a drug dealer and, like, really in the game. And so it's very weird to be like, oh, that's crazy. Mm-hmm. Like, my dad, that's so weird. So yeah, and then, you want to like humanize people. And I think that there was a moment where I was like, no one's going to care that my dad died because he was these things. And I think that that sort of was a catalyst for why this was so important, because we're so obsessed with like white women who go missing.
Mm-hmm.
We're so obsessed. Like the internet just like everyone stops what they're doing and like gets on TikTok and is like, okay.
Pretty girl.
Yeah. Like people are like flying to like Arkansas and they're like, I'm where this girl last was.
Well,
and
I'm looking for her.
Yeah. And it's like, holy crap, this is crazy. But like my dad on paper, people would be like, oh, anyways. And so I wanted.
Like what makes him less of value?
Yeah.
What makes him less worthy for his case to be solved, for him to have justice? Like that's not fair.
And so it's this weird sort of, I did do the podcast. I'm very frustrated that I had to, because I had to tell this story in a way that was compelling enough that drew you in and got you interested in my dad as a person, to see him as a human so that you cared he was murdered.
Mm-hmm.
And it shouldn't have had to be that way, but it was. And I'm thankful that it worked, because for years I was frustrated that no one really like gave a shit that like my dad got shot in his house. Like
in his safe place.
He
the place
wasn't
he
like
was supposed
out
to be
even
safe.
doing anything. Not that that makes it right, but he was just at home.
Yeah.
My sister was home. Like there was it's so dehumanizing to say that that doesn't matter. And I think that me telling the story through my lens of like being the daughter trying to do it, like do this and investigate and solve the case, has really like added that human element to stories. And it's also like people taking charge of their own stories. There's so many true crime podcasts that exist where people make like a lot of money just telling other people's stories.
Yeah.
And so it's like very
That's so
empowering
true.
for me to just be like, this is my story. Like I get to tell it the way that I want to. I get to see my dad the way that I want to see him, and like I can tell this story.
You control the narrative, and you're gonna solve the case.
Yeah.
Like it's already been done.
Yeah.
It's already
I've
been
already
done.
solved it.
You have already solved it.
Yeah.
You have. That's on manifesting.
And that's, yes. Manifesting 201. That's like the advanced level.
That's the advanced level.
Level 1 is G-Wagon.
Level 2 is solving your dad's murder. Y'all actually should probably Venmo both of us.
Yeah.
The first one was free. That one.
My master class.
The master class we should have charged you for. But y'all were so powerful that you manifested that free manifesting lesson. Wow. Wow.
Oh my gosh. I love it. But yeah, so it's been like, I've been on this very, very interesting ride, and still on it because there's, more to do and more to investigate and all of these things happening. But I'm just out here.
You are out here. It's a lot of work too. Like that's a lot of work. Like this, I know I have a podcast. I have a podcast. So I don't know if y'all know about it. It's called the MiscELENAeous podcast. It's wherever you listen to podcasts, also on YouTube. Subscribe, share with your friends. But so I know podcasting is hard. It takes the work. It's more than what people think. But like to do what the level of podcasting that you're doing, and the amount of interviews and prep time, and then the amount of content that you're collecting that you have to then sift through, and the production value and the post-production, and that you are doing this in real time and sharing it. You're not collecting all of the data and going through everything and then solving the murder and then producing something. Like you are sharing the whole journey with it. That is, guys, that is moving mountains.
Yeah.
That is it. That is moving mountains.
It is. It's become a full-time job, which is really interesting because I was working like a lot while doing this, and now I'm just doing this all the time. And I kind of thought like, oh, when I stop working and I'm doing this full time, like I'm gonna have a lot more free time to like hang out with my friends and like get lunch or whatever.
Psych.
And like I have not seen some of my friends since the launch party for the podcast, like at all, not once. And I'm like, I feel bad, but it's just been so, and it's all consuming and it's so deeply personal that it is hard to kind of separate. Like, I don't like clock out.
I was that's so funny. I feel like our brains are like in sync because as I'm about to like ask a question, you like bring something up. I'm like, how do you kind of consolidate or like manage because that must be heavy and like draining to be working on this constantly. Like, how do you switch to be like, okay, well, now I'm going to stop working on solving my dad's murder. Do you guys want tacos? Like, how do you, I don't know how I could compartmentalize or like consolidate one thing to, I mean, you can't, I guess.
Yeah, it is hard. And I do find myself, I am a bit of like a jokester. So I am able to kind of like have those moments of like joking around with people. My one friend, Shekinah, who's been helping me, she's like, Madison is the most unhinged person because I'm just able to like make jokes all the time. And I do find it difficult because I'll have these moments of like, everything's cool, everything's fine, this is funny, haha, hee hee. And then I'll have like a full day of like, I can't get out of bed, I have to lay in bed, I can't do anything, I'm so tired, like I'm emotionally tired.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just the buildup. But on most days, it is hard to just like, you know, go from emailing like a bunch of people about like this polygraph test I found to then being like, anyways, I'm going to watch the challenge. Like, this is like, it's so weird. And I have had to just like force myself to like put my phone on Do Not Disturb or like whatever, put away my computer. But I mean, I'm always thinking about it. It's all consuming. And I can see where
I feel like your brain could never shut it off.
Never.
Like, it's like, your subconscious is always going. I feel like theories are probably always going.
Yes.
I feel like, do you rest at night when you sleep? Do you dream about it?
I sleep pretty good.
Good.
Actually,
that actually was a compliment. I sleep pretty good.
I sleep pretty good. I'm weird. Sleep is something I've always like. I can sleep anywhere. For any amount of time, and I can wake up at any point. I do have weird dreams. I keep a dream journal because I have weird dreams.
I was gonna say, if you don't, you gotta be paying attention to those dreams.
They're weird, and none of them really have anything to do with my dad, but I do write them down because they are strange. And
I feel like you need to take them to a dream interpreter.
Yeah.
Guys, y'all know I'm on a journey. Okay, so I feel like we are going somewhere in our dreams every night. So I know my mom always says this too. She's like, anytime, you know, the whole like, if something's going on, she always takes let me sleep on it seriously. You know, it's like, people are like, let me sleep on it. Like, it's like a little just cliche thing you say, but my mom's like, no, I like to sleep on it because that's when my subconscious mind takes a little trip and we work on the things that our brain and our whatever we're, you know, dealing with or anxious about or struggling with or whatever, that's our time for our mind to like work on those problems. And normally in the morning I wake up and I have a clarity, or I'm like, okay, I feel good about that thing. But she's always said that my whole life. But more recently, she's like, we're both like, okay, wait a second. Like, what are we really up to? Like, we're powerful. Our brains are powerful.
Yeah.
So what are our brains doing? Like, where are we going when we're asleep? Like, am I like hopping into another timeline? Like, am I leaving my body? Like, is there another, like, you know, what's going on?
Yeah.
Is somebody, do I need to be paying attention? Is there?
I've always wanted to try.
Am I crazy? Unclear at this time. Maybe I'll find out tonight in my dreams. Stay the fuck tuned.
I think because I'm like weird, I'm so good at sleeping weirdly. I've always wanted to try what's it called, like lucid dreaming, where you're like really awake but you're dreaming. I've always wanted to try that.
Honestly, I think like the best way to do ketamine infusion therapy is to try to sleep when you do it, but most people can't relax enough to go to sleep. But one time I almost fell asleep and I was like, we were getting somewhere, I think. Maybe not fully like healing my mental health. That's not the sentiment I was making, but I was like, I don't know, maybe we were like, I was going to learn something that day or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
God, I should try it.
But yeah, like be paying attention to them dreams.
Yeah.
Maybe your dad will be like, give you signs.
I did have a medium come to my apartment.
Tell us everything.
Yes. This was actually the craziest story. So I had a medium come, and now she's a friend of mine, but before, this was in like April, so the podcast hadn't come out yet. You couldn't Google it, and nobody really knew anything, and she didn't know anything at all. We had met on set a year prior, and I was like, hey, I'd love to talk to you at some point. Can I get your info, and I will let you know when I'm ready? And it was like a year later, and I remember texting her being like, I don't know if you remember me, but like we met, blah, 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 whatever. She was like, oh yeah, I remember you. She comes over. I'm like, I want to do it in this room because there had been some weird stuff happening in my office in my apartment. So she comes in and we go back to the office and we're sitting there and it was like an hour and a half, but I'll summarize. It was so crazy. She comes in and she's like, huh. And I'm like, oh God, okay, what? She's like, there's a woman standing here and she's standing in front of a man who's like in the shadows. I can't see him. And I was like, okay. And she was like, and the man won't come out because he feels unjustified. It was so weird.
I have chills.
And she had nothing. She didn't know anything. And like the word unjustified, it was just very weird that she like used that word and was talking about this. So my grandmother on my dad's side was alive when he was killed and lived for like a while after, like over 10 years after.
Poor sweet baby. That must have been so terrible for her.
She always said like she didn't want to die until she knew what happened to her son. And I think that before she died, she found out who killed my dad. And then she passed away. And so I think like Kelsey is her name, was seeing my grandmother standing in front of my dad. And it was just so weird. So she goes on and she says like, and now again, she knows nothing. She doesn't know that my dad was murdered. She doesn't know that my dad is dead. She doesn't know that I'm trying to talk to my dad. And she doesn't know that I'm investigating a murder. So then she says, I see like a lot of paperwork around. And I was like, oh, I have a stack of case files over there. She's like, lay them out for me. So I lay out all the case files just in a random order. I have like stacks of papers that are all clamped together. I lay them out. And she's like, it's over here. There's something weird over here. So she grabs something and it's the 911 call that Omar, my cousin, made. It's the transcript of the 911 call, which I always thought was weird. And I always thought there was something weird about Omar's sort of side of this story. And she grabs it and she's like, this is strange. It was just so weird. And it was just like really, I had never experienced this before. I had like never had anyone like really like deep dive into this. And then she kept going and she was like, I think you're on the right path. She was like, but you don't have all the information yet, but you're on the right path. She was like, keep doing what you're doing. So then
angel numbers, you're on the right path.
She had on her leg tattooed 555. And she was like, I keep seeing 555. I had never seen 555 in my life before this. It was always like 222 or something else. Never in my life had I seen 555. I have since April, I see 555 everywhere. Everywhere. It's so strange.
I can't wait till we see 555 later today.
I see
together.
It everywhere. It's so weird. And she said it, and then she did a tarot card reading. So this is like a very weird point in my life. We're getting into like the nitty gritty now. I was about to buy a house. I was about to launch this podcast. I was just doing a lot of crazy stuff. She does a tarot card reading and she's like, you're about to launch a business venture. It has to do with the entertainment industry and you're about to get a lot of recognition. And this is before, I mean, it was just so weird and
undeniable.
Like really, really crazy. Undeniable is my word of the year. That's weird. Yeah, it's on my vision board.
I just wanted to take my top off. That was my reaction after the scream was I wanted to show my boobs.
Wait. Yeah, undeniable is my word of the year. So yeah,
I have full body
crazy.
chills.
So I'm very into all this stuff. And I wasn't before. I didn't know if I really believed in like at least like the medium side. I like
girl, same.
But I like after that, and that's why I was like, I'm not gonna tell her anything. I really want to like almost test her and see like, is this really legit? I don't know. I mean, I'm a believer now. Now for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Undeniable.
Okay, so because this is the Miscellaneous podcast and it doesn't get more miscellaneous than jumping from your dad's murder to your sexual preferences, let's do a little Respect the Unexpected with Madison. I heard we have an interesting preference in the bed. You didn't think I wasn't going to bring that up on the podcast? I am. I'm Elena.
I have this weird thing.
Doesn't hold back. I love it.
I don't know if it's weird. My friends say that it's strange.
Don't worry, we respect the unexpected here, so it's a safe space.
I like when straight men kiss.
Does it make you feel powerful? Because you're like, I can make you do that because I'm such a hot girl that I can make you do that. Like, that's how hot I am.
I don't know.
It's actually
like,
just how hot you are.
I don't know if it's like how like men like when women kiss. But like I love
like do you like have you like seen straight men like make out? Like make out?
Yeah.
Wow.
And I
can you get some straight cowboys to do that tonight?
I like really like it. And like the movie
I would
Saltburn just came out.
Pass away.
And like I loved Saltburn and like
So I had to sage myself after I watched Saltburn.
Yeah,
personally.
that movie made me like feel really
like
excited.
There were moments in the movie that I was very here for. I was like, whew. And then there are moments in the movie where I was like putting the covers over my eyes. So I was like, this is far too much for actually me, personally, me, Elena Davies. Too much for me. Again, the duality of life. It's like, it's so amazing how something can be two things. But I've never heard that one before in my life.
Well, my friends always say, well, that means they're not straight. And I'm like, they can still be straight and make out.
Yeah. Yes. I think so.
Yeah.
That's the duality of life.
I think so too. Now, if they're bi, that's okay too.
Right.
And gay men can kiss. I'm not like, I would love for them to kiss. It just doesn't turn me on.
It doesn't turn
as
you
much.
on. Right. Because, well, at that point, you're realizing that when they're done kissing, they're just going to keep kissing each other.
Yeah.
And they're not going to kiss you.
Totally.
So it's like, oh, wait. Y'all are kissing? Wait, can we kiss?
Yeah. That's what it is.
Kind of fun.
That's what it is. I like it. I like it.
Just variety.
I think it's hot.
It's the spice of life.
I think it's hot.
So new mission for us today is, 1, we're going to see 555.
Yes.
It has already happened. 2, I'm taking this girl to see, y'all, she doesn't even know. We're telling her right now together. Y'all want to tell her with me? She probably doesn't even know half the shit I'm going to say. I'm taking her to see Tanya Tucker. Doesn't even know who that is. Do you know who that is?
I do not.
Y'all, that's tough. Okay. I'm taking her to see Tanya Tucker at Joe T. Garcia's. And then I'm taking her to the rodeo. And we're going to get 2 straight cowboys to kiss. Ski! Ha!
I'll never leave Texas if that happens.
Don't. Stay here forever. It has been written.
I do like it here.
It's a little cold right now, but we warm up soon.
Yeah.
And quick.
And I'm ready.
So.
Yeah.
Rodeo comes back around in May, so we actually have more rodeos in other cities if you want to hop around. We got the Houston Rodeo coming up next.
I'm just going to go on a rodeo tour.
A little rodeo tour. I'm down. Got the Austin Rodeo.
Oh, heck yeah.
So I'm just saying we can beat bop around Texas.
I'm ready. I love the rodeo already. And
have you ever been to a rodeo?
Never in my life.
I didn't think so.
No.
Just
never.
making sure.
You can't tell?
Yeah, we'll get you a cowgirl hat. We'll fix you right up.
I'm ready.
We'll get your yeehaws in order.
I feel like it's gonna be like extreme makeover, like queer
Cowgirl edition.
Cowgirl edition. Yeah. I'm ready. I'm ready for that.
Okay, guys, we have to go get our yeehaws in order. But tell everyone where they can follow you, all the best ways to keep up, etc.
Yeah, so I'm on Instagram. And like nothing else. I mean, I tried the TikTok. I'm not good at it, but I am on Instagram, Madison _McGhee, and then also Ice Cold Case on literally everything. And you can find Ice Cold Case wherever you get your podcasts. And there are more episodes dropping very, very soon. So this is the perfect time to get caught up.
To binge and then get lubed up and ready to go for the next drop.
Boys making out.
For some cowboys making out and solving her dad's murder.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah. Okay, so y'all make sure you're following Madison. Make sure you're following me at Elena Davies on Instagram, at MiscELENAeous Podcast. Make sure you're subscribed wherever you listen to your podcast on YouTube. Stay the fuck tuned, and I'll see you next Tuesday.
Yay Networks.